This is Olivier, and together with my colleague Mas, we're going to talk about the power of AI in private fundraising. So let me start with two spoilers. The first one is we are going to talk about monkeys drinking coffee, and the other one we're going also to talk about the results of French elections into donor attrition and churn. So, of course, what these two topics have in common is the fact that they are related to AI, obviously. And AI is an extremely discussed and hot topic. Everybody knows that. What really made a difference was the boom of ChatGPT in November 22, and suddenly it became the fastest growing and spread technology ever, and reaching 100 million users within weeks. And now I've looked at figures saying that in France and Denmark, it's about 60% of the population which has tried ChatGPT. And in the US, it's a bit less, about 55%. But AI is not only ChatGPT, and I'm going to talk about that more. But what is also interesting is that there is a lot of discussion around AI, but what is always interesting when there is so much discussions around the technology is to actually move away from the technology and look at the use cases. What can you do with this technology? So this is what we're going to spend quite some time at, just showing some concrete cases. What can you use this technology for? Just a couple of words about ourselves. We are a SaaS platform, and our mission is to help non-for-profits increase the funds dedicated to their cause. And we obviously, in our platform, in the core of our platform, there is AI and machine learning. And the platform is designed to elevate donor engagement, to offer intuitive recommendations, and foster deep loyalty to fundraisers' cause. And we do that with the help of ethical innovation. We'll get a bit back to ethics also in AI, and the intelligent use of data and automation at the core. And then you can see we have we're working with different non-for-profits, both patient organizations and NGOs in 5 or 6 countries. That was about us. So I'm Olivier here, and Mas is going also to present some of the cases a bit later. We've looked at some European Fundraising Association survey trackings here, and we thought it was interesting to share it because it gives an impression of the penetration, the distribution of the use of AI within non-for-profit. And so you have different options here and say, where do we stand as a non-for-profit? 23% are saying, well, we need to learn more. And we understand that. It's, again, based on the fact, well, technology is great. We hear about it all the time, but what can I do with it? Then optimistic but cautious is the second one. And there's also a lot of talks about the negative effect of AI. And that's why ethics is so important as well. But optimistic but cautious is number 2. Then there is curious, but we need to explore some more. We don't see ourselves using AI in our organization. It can also happen, 15%. And then 13% only at this point, but that's growing, are saying we're excited and we already make use of AI in the organization. Then there would be a little minority who say we don't trust AI. And obviously AI is here to stay. So it's more a question of how to use it, what to do with it, how to use it ethically, more than, no, we're not going to use it. It's here to stay. We would like to talk about 2 main categories of AI that are used in fundraising, in private fundraising. And the first one is the most known one, which is the generative AI, and that's a ChatGPT and Google Gemini and the like. And the other one is the predictive AI, which we are going to talk more about. But I'm just going to briefly introduce them. So this is an example of a monkey drinking Nespresso, and it's been done by an NGO here in Denmark. And the interesting part here is that this picture has been totally composed with the help of AI, and it's been an extremely short process to build up such a campaign, to realize it. And it's been also extremely both cheap and effectful. And as you know, you can produce a lot of text and a lot of pictures for a fraction of the time and the cost that it would previously be. So just talking about our own company here, everything we produce from a marketing perspective is actually produced using different tools that helps editing videos or creating text or creating pictures, just as this one. So generative AI, capable of generating text, image, and videos, and often responding to prompts and using some models behind. And these models are basically trained so that you can generate new data that has the same characteristics of what you have inputted into these models. So when we talk about predictive AI, then it's a bit different, but it's also based on an analysis of past data and generating then some, in this case, some recommendations out of it. So applied to fundraising, private fundraising, we can say that the predictive AI forces a future behavior, analyzes historical data at an individual level, and then is able to predict and to recommend what will happen afterwards. That's obviously something that is extremely useful if you know what the result is of a response for an individual before you do the campaign. Then you have some better chances to make a better campaign out of it. Of course, it's never 100%, but at least we'll show a few cases. Then you can make some predictions that are extremely accurate. What you can use these predictions for is three things. First, AI will identify some hidden patterns in the data that our brains and eyes would otherwise not capture. That means that the recommendations and predictions will be extremely fine and subtle and precise. Then it allows to predict a behavior when you have no rule. To give you an example, I mean, if everybody is doing something because they've been to a meeting first, that's fine. You select everybody who's been to a meeting, and then you will have a good chance to get hold of your perfect target segments. But when there is no rule, when there's been no obvious thing that has happened, then AI allows you to see through the data, the patterns, and come with some recommendations besides these rules, and much better than these rules. And finally, it allows also to prioritize between options. You may say, now all this who have given before, they will be also again more likely to give in the future. That's right. But if you need to start with the most relevant, the most likely to give next time, for example, in telemarketing, then here you have an opportunity to prioritize between options. So I'm already at a bit introducing some of the cases. So I will hand over to Mas to give a flair of what sort of predictive AI use cases we most see out there.
Yes, thank you, Olivier, and good morning to everybody. Yes, let's have a look at some specific use cases, client use cases that we know of. But let's start with the general picture. What use cases do we often see and often support here? This is kind of a timeline or a lifeline of a donor situation from acquisition to churn. And one of the things that we often meet is the need to be able to prioritize leads. If you have a big pool of leads, you do want to know if some of these leads are more likely to convert in a specific campaign or to something specific than others, and thereby being able to prioritize between them. Another situation, moving to the right, is of course something that almost all fundraising organizations do, that is asking their constituents, their donors, to donate more or donate again. And in these cases, a prioritization would be about identifying who will convert from a one-time or a sporadic donor to a regular monthly donor, or it could be a member. And also, next one, to identify who will donate in the next campaign specifically. If you have a segment of, let's say, 30,000 that you would contact, would it be better if you could reduce that by, let's say, 20, 30, 50, or even 60%, knowing that the remaining part is much more likely to convert than the others? Same with the last situation in this course, identify who will upgrade their donation. Moving to the right again, we see this donor lifetime cycle column here, and here it gets a bit more, not complex, but it just takes more things into consideration. And this is about recommending the most relevant communication to a specific individual at the right time. So you could call it next best offer or action or something like that, but that is kind of taking a 360-degree look at the individual donor to have AI suggest what to offer, what amount to ask for, at what specific time, when am I, if I'm the donor, when am I most prone to give, and what channel is it relevant to contact me from, and what content will I respond to better than other content doing that. Last group of situations is churn loyalty. Identify who will churn, who of your regular donors will more likely than others churn if you do not do something, and what are the best loyalty communication to keep donors satisfied with their relation to the organization. Hang on, we'll go to the next one. Here, at this, when we move forward here, we look at these three specific use cases and see some results from and situations from real life campaigns. The first one, identified who will donate in this campaign, then looking at how to predict what content is relevant for the individual donor, and as a last one, identify who will churn. Okay, good. First case, direct mail optimization with AI. And here you say simple objective is to select a number of direct mail sent out for the next campaign that will secure the best result or the best ROI from that specific campaign. And in this case, it's from the Danish Rheumatism Association. They could see that they of course sent out lots of DMs in this situation, and their return on investment from that campaign could be better. But how to optimize the results and what insights they knew they needed insights, and what we could help them with here, or what AI can help you with, is to identify who will donate and who are less likely to donate. And in this specific case, you can see that using AI, the number or amount of letters sent out could be reduced by a lot. Only sending out 42% of the full segment meant that the ROI went up with 3.5, with a factor of 3.5, because the cost of sending out is so high, and the less likely to donate recipients, they didn't contribute much to the campaigns anyway. So this is a situation where this particular campaign was increased by 250,000 Danish kroner. That's a good one. Next example is the possibility with AI, machine learning, to identify potential churners. In this case that we're looking at now, a client looking at the client's response data and history from the first half of 2023, it's possible to predict who of the regular donors are most likely to churn, that means leaving as regular donors, in the second half of 2023. And then to see whether the predictions are correct, we of course compare with the actual churn in the second part of 2023. And this might be a bit of a busy slide, but just let's go through it. In this case, the client has 41,000 regular donors and a churn rate of 4.3%. That's a 6-month churn rate. And then what AI and predictive analytics does is that predicts based on the historical data who in this group of 41,000 are most likely to cancel their subscription as a regular donor, and organizing all of the 41,000 into brackets of 10%, going from most likely to churn to least likely to churn. You can see those brackets going from the dark blue in the midsection here to the light blue, whereas the light blues are the least likely to churn and the dark blues are the most likely to churn according to the AI prediction. And looking at the actual results at the end of the second half of 23, we can see that 65% of the total number of churners were found in the predicted 10% with the highest churn risk. So that's something that you can use. You can now target your 10% group or something more. I mean, it could be 12, it could be 5 or 15, and then not contacting the full base to do loyalty activities. What is behind this? And this is also one of the things that Olivier touched on, that we want to be able to tell what's in the black box. Why does the models perform this way? What makes them tell who are more likely to donate than others? In this case, we can see from the AI models that we built and use that duration of the engagement as a regular donor has a high impact, whether it's a short duration or a long duration. We cannot see from here, but we know that it's very important that the duration has a big impact. And I guess you probably know that somebody signing up for a regular donation and then they maybe pay once or they don't pay at all. Then they leave in the first part of their history, and some leave after a long time as regular donors as well. So duration is important. Age is another thing, and you can see lots of data points here that are relevant for predicting churn in this case. You would actually also be able to see if a specific data point leads towards more churn or less churn. Let's move on. The last one is content recommendation, and Olivier, I believe that you will take this one, right?
Sure, and don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat as well. You will find there a white paper as a handout as well that you're very welcome to download. But let's go into content recommendation. And we work with some non-for-profit for who content is very important to drive motivation and to drive donations. So it's not all non-for-profit, but at least some. I work, for example, with Mercy Ships. We have a lot of stories and a lot of geographies and motivations behind donations for who it's very important to target specifically every individual in a personalized way. So let's get into it. I mean, we know that from different industry, whether it's digital newspaper, or even insurance or loyalty programs and etc., that content is driving conversion. And to get a bit of a flavor of how to get to some recommendations that are effective, that works, that actually are telling a story to mass, and for me that would be another story that matter. Then here we have a case where you can start with a piece of content. The content will be, in most cases, in a website, in an email, will be text and picture. Then you can use some AI tools as well, such as text analysis or image analysis. And these tools will tell you automatically what is this text and picture all about. And I have an example here where you can say it's breaking it down, the text and the picture, into a lot of different words and concepts and all this, right? So when we know that, we can establish a sort of cloud representation of this article that we can match with an individual, with me, for example. I've been clicking, I've been on website, on emails, I have been responding to some donation campaigns. So we can establish a profile around me as well with the help of AI, just in the same way as the article. So matching these two things, matching this specific piece of content and matching my profile, gives an indication of how, to what extent is this content relevant for me. And then you can prioritize it, and then you will show different articles to mass that you will show to me. That's the principle of it. So what to do with it? If it's an email, you may have some periodic emails, for example, every Wednesday. Then you would be able to pick up the best content offer, whatever, most relevant for each subscriber individually. Then you may have some campaigns, and for the campaigns, not everyone is relevant. So you would be able to select some subscribers that will find this specific content interesting and relevant. So I'll just go a little bit quickly here, but the principle is to sort of, if you have 500 articles on your website, then it's a matter of saying for mass, which is the most important one, the most relevant one, and the second, and so forth, down to 500. And then you can automatically select which, for example, the top 10 stories articles out of the 500. Now, what we have seen again and again is that the click-through rate of the email is much larger with the help of personalization. There's a lot of theories out there, and we have seen that again and again. In here, it's a case where we got to times 2.2 or plus 120% CTR by personalizing the email. You can apply the same recommendations on the website. And here there are three main cases typically we see out there. The first one is the front page visits. So someone is coming on the front page, and here it's a matter of presenting the most relevant recommendations. Now, it's not everyone that is starting from a front page. We know that from web tracking typically. So a most common case is the next one. It's like you have a deep link visit, whether it's coming from SEO, it's coming from meta ad, from an email, from whatever. And here you have an opportunity to show your donors and your visitors to show some related content to what the person has shown an interest. So, and when the visitor will be continue browsing and clicking through the website and visiting more pages, then you will also be able to come with related articles, because of course you have an interest that all your content is going to be read. And we know for a fact that there is a correlation between consuming this content and also donating in the other end, obviously. So these are some just a couple of examples from Mercyships, where on the left here, they will prioritize which articles and which stories they will be putting into both the email, but also on the website. I mean, this is actually a landing page here. Mas, do you want to drive us what it takes to actually get to the goal? Where
I'll do that quickly. Of course, you need to identify what use case you want to start out with. There were lots here. I started presenting a whole list of cases, and we looked into 3 now. So identify the use case you want to start with, sign a data processing agreement to cover the GDPR part of it. That's what you do as an organization, and then you also secure together with your provider the access to the data. Can be done in many ways, and then the work on building AI model starts, which is not something that a client needs to take part in. We extract and prepare the data, build and train models, and export the results from the models to the database of your choice, and it could also be in a file if that's the preferred version. And then you use the scores for upcoming campaigns, or for, as Olivier just said, to feed your newsletter or your website with individualized content. And for that, there's a ton of standardized data connectors and to be used to make this interaction as seamless as possible. Anything you want to add to this, Olivier?
No, I think that's fine. I mean, what we come back, and that's the next thing we would like to show, is that for the attendees of this webinar, we propose to actually test it, because the main question we get is, would that work for me? So I can see it works for others. Do we have the data for it? And that's why we have an opportunity here to actually test on your own data. So just reach at Mads or myself, and after this webinar, you will get our details and all this, and it's something we can quickly set up and see if actually how much would there be improvements on fundraising campaigns in your own context.
Yeah, and obviously the results will be formalized and presented in dashboards and results to look at and evaluate.
We have a couple of minutes for questions, and there's one here for you, Mads. How much, I mean, data is needed?
Yes. How much data is needed? Good question, and so relevant, because that's one thing. Data is needed, period. And what we're typically looking at is that we are going back to, if it's a case of optimizing the fundraising effort to save money and generate a higher ROI, we would look into historical data, 1 year, 2 years of the campaigns that you are already doing today, to look at the results from those campaigns. That is one thing we need, and then we need information on your donors. No names. We don't want any names. We just want an ID to be able to identify them. And based on this, based on the historical data, we build a model to predict the future. So it's actually always something that you typically already have in your system. Of course, there would be some cases where the data does not show enough to make a very good model, but that's very seldom on the cases that you typically, or the use cases you typically build on. If it's a direct mail send out, if it's emails, if it's a text, SMS message collection. So it's data that you have already, typically.
Yeah. Then what about GDPR? As GDPR is obviously always there in the background, and here typically what we see is that our non-for-profit clients are covered by the permission they've gathered from donors and visitors and etc. about the use of data for marketing purpose. And you can argue it's the same as when you do segmentation. You use the data in order to say, well, I'm going to send to all these that are like this, and here there is no difference. So of course you need to make sure of all the GDPR rules when data is coming out of the non-for-profit, that it needs to remain in Europe, that it needs to be pseudonymized or anonymized, and all these rules needs to be observed, obviously, but it is absolutely within reach. And maybe just to finish on that one, I will just also introduce this with ethics. Europe is the first geographical area in the world that has an AI Act, so regulation around AI. And again, that's working with marketing, you can say, or fundraising is considered as a non-dangerous thing, because it's whether you get some content or other content, you pilot a campaign, other campaign is not as defining as whether you are allowed to join an education process or that your insurance will pay some very large bills for your health. So from that perspective, you have different categories in the EU Act, and this one will be considered a low a low risk category. So we anyway always recommend to think about what you do and why you do it when you work with AI. But in this case, there are some quite secure boundaries. So we are reaching the end of this webinar. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for joining. We will share some material after this, and just feel free to reach out. We're always happy to engage in dialogues. And have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.